Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and this is MB12 for Tuesday, August 21st, 2012, broadcasting from the Cable 12 studios on Robinson Road. In news tonight, we have an exclusive, in-depth conversation with the Prime Minister about the upcoming gambling referendum. The Democratic National Alliance believes it can determine the outcome of the next general election. A tropical storm stirring up concerns in the tropics. Family members recall a late trade unionist, and how the Prime Minister plans to celebrate his birthday. We have those stories and much more coming up tonight. Your MB12 starts right now. Thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Perry Christie today giving much more detail on the upcoming gambling referendum, as well as responding to the President of the Bahamas Christian Council's call for the government to take ownership of the issue. You'll only see this story on MB12. Paige McCartney reports.
The Prime Minister standing firm on his decision not to make public his personal position on whether he believes gambling should be legalized. He said the President of the Christian Council can feel free to call him and he will let him know privately. The Prime Minister also revealed more details about the referendum, saying that he has already hired consultants from the United Kingdom that will advise him on how to move forward with the referendum and how to move forward if gambling is legalized in the Bahamas.
Prime Minister Perry Christie says the President of the Bahamas Christian Council is mistaken for wanting the government to take responsibility for the decision to legalize certain forms of gambling or not for Bahamians. Reverend Dr. Ranford Patterson said yesterday that the government should leave the Bahamian people out of the decision, but the Prime Minister reiterated that the decision itself won't be driven by the government.
We are trying to get people to independently arrive at a decision devoid of political considerations, so that it may be because the implication of not voting for it is to close them down. You see, because this is now being put to the Bahamian people for them to make a decision.
Parliamentarians will not be required to vote on the referendum in the House of Assembly, according to the Prime Minister. He pointed out that they don't even have to vote in the widespread ballot if they don't want to. Christie said as Prime Minister, he is supported by a significant number of people, and he doesn't want to influence their decision by offering his personal opinion before the fact.
I know that I'm Prime Minister, and I know if I signal what I believe in, people will in fact say, well, that's how we should vote. And I'm trying to avoid even that, even though all of the research of the Ministry of Finance prior to my coming in, all of their preparation and research indicated there is a significant amount of revenue potentially to be gained from a positive vote. But again, I don't want to color or discolor the whole procedures by that.
But the government has not actually figured out how a national lottery will work just yet. He said if a lottery is approved, the government will use precedents set in other regional nations that also have lotteries.
This happens to be an area that I have no prior experience with. I don't play lotteries, and I don't play web shops and numbers and so forth. But from the point of view of the lottery, my understanding is there is concern that we don't have the base, the population base. I then argued, well, the population base is here because if you're selling a lottery ticket, you have 4 million tourists, or whatever number of tourists you'll be eligible to, which makes it a bigger base. But so you don't have the prizes in the lottery that you see in the United States of America. It's a different kind of situation.
The government has already enlisted the help of consultants from the United Kingdom that have previously advised the government on national issues.
I happen to have experts who are now being employed to advise me on the process going forward, so that upon the vote, I would then know what to do. I'll go further. The Ministry of Finance, during the prior regime, prepared legislation on computer wagering, which is to cover those situations. So as to whether or not that is entirely suitable, I don't know, because once we reach a stage where we're doing the lottery, we'll have to have consultation with the people who are involved in the business.
While he could not give an estimate of how much the referendum would cost the government, the Prime Minister said it would not be as expensive as a general election because there will be less polling stations. He said regardless of the cost, though, a referendum will take place.
The Prime Minister also said that prior to the actual referendum, the government will provide the Bahamian people with all the information they need on a national lottery and the legalization of the numbers game. For NB12, I'm Paige McCartney.
Well, today is also the Prime Minister's birthday. Christie turned 69 years old today. He said what he wants most for his birthday is to spend time with his family.
When you reach this age, you try to sneak through your birthday, just pretend it doesn't exist and go on. But mine, I wanted my daughter to come home from the United States to spend the night with me and to sit and have a meal with me. So that the whole family would be together. And, essentially that's what it's all about.
By the way, the Prime Minister got his wish. Alex Christie made it home this evening. The NB12 family wishes Prime Minister Christie a very happy birthday. While the Democratic National Alliance may not have won any seats in the recent general election, however, leader Brando McCartney says he strongly believes his party determined which political party formed the government. He's predicting the DNA will have an even bigger impact on the election outcome 5 years from now. Vonique Toot reports.
Following the May 7th general election, DNA leader Branville McCartney claimed he received calls from angry F&M supporters who blamed him for their party's loss. Well, more than 3 months later, the former cabinet minister says he would gladly take credit for the F&M's defeat.
If they keep on saying it, I take the credit. Fine. If they want to give me that credit, a party, and if you say it, I say it right, a party that's been around for just 11 months at a time, a party that we were called turkeys, insignificant. We were told that we'll have no bearing on this election. And on election night, I got calls from persons of the former administration cursing and carrying on and saying I caused them to lose. Well, fine. If you want to give me all that credit, when you had your leader, who was nobody was supposed to be better than him, has been the Prime Minister for 15 years, and little old Brad came and took that away.
McCartney joined the F&M at age 21, but severed ties with the then governing party last year to form the DNA. The third party receives more media and public attention than any of the other political parties that have been formed in recent years. However, leaders of the PLP and F&M still dismiss the DNA as insignificant. On election night, McCartney's party got more than 13,000 votes. He says it more than covers the 10,000 votes the F&M would have needed to perhaps defeat the PLP.
This is very interesting. If you look at the numbers in the House of Assembly, the government has won almost like by landslide a number of seats. But do you know they do not have the popular vote? Between the F&M and the DNA, they have more votes. That means more people voted in this country for the opposition and the DNA combined. What does that tell you? That tells you a lot.
McCartney says there is no doubt in his mind that the DNA determined which political party formed the government.
The DNA, we may not have any seats, but we got some numbers, and we can determine who's the government, just like we did in the last election. If you don't take notice of the DNA, you're a fool. Politically, that is. Politically. I will tell you, from what I see, if the DNA is not the government, next time they'll certainly determine who's the government next time in a more significant way.
If the Green Team ever decides to throw its support behind the F&M or PLP, the former Bamboo Town MP says he is confident that party would win the next general election. However, he says he has no intention of doing so. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Toot.
Forecasters keeping a close eye on Tropical Storm Isaac, which was upgraded at 5 p.m. today. Hurricane expert Wayne Neely says this afternoon the system was located at 15.3 degrees north and 53.2 degrees west, moving west at about 20 miles per hour. Neely says if Isaac continues on its current track, it could even develop into a Category 1 or 2 hurricane once in the waters of the Caribbean Sea. He knows that most computer models take the storm just south of the Bahamas, but it's still too early to tell what type of impact the storm could have on weather in the area. Meanwhile, another system following Tropical Storm Isaac is also something to pay attention to. The tropical wave now has a 60% chance of tropical cyclone formation. Forecasters are advising members of the public to pay close attention to warnings and advisories issued by the Met Department.